Hello and welcome to the Genuine Learning Blog. My name is Melissa Galasso, and today we're going to tackle another GASB exposure draft. In fact, this is a re-exposure of the notes to financial statements. So this was issued here in June 2021. Comments are due October 15th, and this is a concept statement. So this will not end up being a GASB standard, but will be the conceptual framework for GASB when they are writing their note disclosures. And so the title of the proposal is Communication Methods in General Purpose External Financial Statements that Contain Basic Financial Statements, Notes to Financial Statements. And this is not the first time around. This was originally exposed back in 2020. However, they got some feedback, specifically in the area of what does it mean to be essential, and they made some changes based on that. However, they also want our feedback on the changes that they made. And so instead of putting it out there as final, they made the decision to go and re-expose it for a second round of comments. Now, there were other minor changes made. I'll point them out, but the real essential change is the word essential. So in terms of what are the purpose of the notes, they are to provide information that explains, describes, or supplements the financial statements, and here's that word, is essential to users in making economic, social, or political decisions, or assessing accountability, right? So going back to the basic conceptual framework for governments that makes it really different from the concept statements for-profit and nonprofit entities is this concept of accountability, right? That we're holding public officials accountable for spending our tax dollars appropriately, for following the budget, right? And so that's really one of the primary uses of these financial statements, right? So be able to make decisions about the economic, social, and political decisions, but also to assess how accountable they've been. And so the notes here are an integral part of the basic financial statements. They are necessary to make the financial statements complete. So if you've ever looked at a financial statement, we always say you can't just look at the balance sheet or the statement of financial position. You have to really take it and look at the notes with it, because the notes provide us additional information, right? So who is our targeted user here? So again, when we think about the users of the notes, they are responsible for obtaining a reasonable understanding of government public finance activities and the fundamentals of government financial reporting. Again, they don't have to be experts, but they also can't be complete novices who don't know any of the basics out there, right? So they have to have the fundamentals of government financial reporting. They have to study the information with reasonable diligence, right? So they have to do a little bit of work here, and they have to apply relevant analytical skills. So what do we think should go in the notes? And when we talk about notes, we're not just talking about narrative items. They can be quantitative, they can be explanations, and they don't have to always be in dollars. So what do we expect to see in the notes? Descriptions of the accounting and finance related policies underlying the financial statements, so we understand how they recognize them. More detail about or explanations about the amounts that are in there. Information related to financial position or inflows or outflows of resource does not meet the recognition criteria. So sometimes it doesn't meet the criteria to be recognized, but we still want to have additional information related to those inflows and outflows. And then any other finance related information associated with accountability of the government. What do we not want in the notes? Very subjective assessments of the effects of reported information on future financial position. Obviously, this would exclude things like expectations or assumptions about the future that are inputs to measures that are in the financial statement. So for example, fair value inputs would obviously be appropriate for the notes. This is more subjective items that are not in those financial statements. Predictions about the effects of future events on financial position and general or educational information not specific to the government, right? We don't want boilerplate definitions, what is an asset? That's not really appropriate in the notes. So let's take a look here at one of the most important pieces, which is where the change is. So under the prior standard, under the prior proposal, essential was proposed again to be distinguished by evidence that 1, the information is being utilized in users' analysis for making decisions or assessing accountability, or 2, users would modify their analysis for making decisions or assessing accountability to incorporate the information if it became available. So again, really focused here it was being used or would be used. They did make some changes here. Again, and we talk about essential, it is the degree of importance the information has to have in order for it to qualify to be in the notes. And so they have updated that definition of essential here. And the new proposal says information that is essential to users in making those decisions or assessments is evidenced by the following. So we have 3 now. 1, users utilize the information in their analysis for making decisions or assessing accountability, or would modify those analyses to incorporate the information if it were made available. So again, very similar again to utilizing it or would incorporate it if it was available. However, here's where they've added to clarify. The information has or would have a meaningful effect on users' analysis for making decisions or assessing accountability, right? So not only is it used, but it would change behavior of some sort, meaningful impact. And then here's where I think they were trying to ensure that you're not thinking about every single user. There has to be a breadth or depth of users who utilize or would utilize the information in their analysis for making decisions or assessing accountability. Because again, we can't think about every single person. And so they are really trying to address some of the comments that they received from the prior exposure draft where people were concerned about some of the verbiage here. So really not just, again, being used in here or being used or would be used, but adding that additional clarity that it had to have a meaningful impact and the breadth or depth of users. So sort of expanding on what they had in the proposal. In addition, the information of whether information is essential should relate to individual information items. So when we look at this again, when we have to do this, this is going to be a big important element. Each item disclosed should possess the characteristics of essentiality. And then information that meets the criteria for notes should be reported in that manner. Presentation as supporting information is not an adequate substitute for disclosures. And I think this is really interesting for me because this is not the first time that they've had to clarify that. There was actually one of the information or one of the implementation guides that was put out there where basically said, well, the GASB statement said do X. It was related to fiduciary activities. It said it had to be a financial statement, and people said, well, can I just throw it in, in the combining statements in the pack? And they were like, no, if we say it should be in a specific place, it should be there, right? So I think that is an interesting thing that you'd have to clarify. So kind of an interesting one, at least for me. And then reporting units. This is another area where a lot of interest was from the prior standard. Information in the notes includes descriptions, explanations, etc., regarding the reporting units of a government, right? So information in the financial statement is presented by reporting units. And so we need to provide information that corresponds to the reporting units in the financial statements. So that was a little bit of a clarification there. And then again, they conclude with what they always do, that it is a cost benefit, right? So at the end of the day, we have to look to see, are the expected benefits from it providing this additional information when, compared to the perceived cost of disclosing it, right? How much time and effort does it take? How much cost is there to getting the information compared to the benefits that it would be provided? So again, the question they're really asking is about this concept of essential. They feel pretty good about what they have right now in the other areas, but they really want to understand if this is going to meet their purpose. So do you agree or disagree that essential information in the notes is evidenced by the following? And then those are the 3 again. So again, utilizing it or would modify their analysis, has or would have a meaningful effect, and again, breadth or depth of users. So that's what they want to hear. So if you are interested in providing feedback, the GASB would love to hear from you. All right, so that's a wrap on today's Genuine Learning blog. It was a pleasure having you with me, and I hope to see you on a future blog. Have a great day, guys. Bye-bye.